as the cloak would suggest, today we're talking about fantasy. I'm going to take this hood off because it's going to drive me crazy. Today I'm going to be talking about my Fantasy-A-Thon TBR. Fantasy-A-Thon, I think it's round 2 of the year. This is the first readathon that I am like officially taking part in. So I'm really excited. I decided to do it based on the fact that almost my entire TBR for December was already fantasy anyway, and a lot of them fit the prompts because the prompts are very loose. So yeah, the thing that solidified it is I was watching Julie's video from Pages and Pens, and she said that one of her favorite fantasy books, like one of the prompts is read one of the host's favorite fantasies, and one of her favorite fantasy books that she said was Dead Witch Walking, which I'm already reading. So I was like, okay, my whole TBR is already fantasy. Like, one of the host's favorite books is one of the books I already have on my TBR. I might as well just participate. Without further ado, that was a really long intro. Let's get into the prompts and what I chose for each one. The first prompt is read a diverse fantasy. So my choice for a diverse fantasy, it wasn't actually on my TBR for this month, but I bought it earlier this year and I have been meaning to read it. And that is The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. I don't really know that much about it. I know enough about it that I knew I wanted to read it, so I bought it, and I don't buy a whole lot of books. But something interesting I've heard about this is that part of it is told in second person. So I've never read a book written in second person or even partially written in second person. So I think that just sounds really interesting. So yeah, this is my choice for read a diverse fantasy. The next prompt is, you really could just shove anything into it because it's read a debut or a backlist title. So basically read any fantasy. Except maybe a new release. Don't read a new release. But for this, I am choosing a super backlisted title. And that is Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. I've already talked about this at length. So, well, maybe not at length because even I don't really know what's going on. But this is my choice for reading a backlist title. The third prompt is start a new series or read on in a series. So I will be reading on in A Song of Ice and Fire with A Storm of Swords, which was also already on my TBR. See how this is working out perfectly? It's great. Yeah, so this is my continuing on in a series. The next one I don't really have a book for. It is read a Hypetrain fantasy, and I don't really have a Hypetrain fantasy, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat and say, even though this isn't necessarily a Hypetrain fantasy, I'm going to call it one because a lot of the booktubers that I, like the bigger booktubers that I normally watch, have recently been talking a lot about this book the past few months. So even though it's really old and it's not necessarily hyped, I'm going to say it's my personal hype train because a lot of the people that I watch have been talking about it. See how I made that work? Okay, so the next one is also a double up for me, and that is finish a fantasy you started but didn't finish. Not because you hard DNF'd, but because you weren't in the mood. I'm going to say A Storm of Swords because I feel like I'm never in the mood for this book, and that's why it's taking me so long to get into it. So we're going to do this one. This is the answer. Okay, so the next one is to read a fantasy in a format you don't normally read. And this is a little bit of a cheat, but because there are two formats that I do read in a lot, but combined, I don't really read in them. And that is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I have the physical book, but I've been putting this off because I want to read the physical book because it's interesting. Like, look at the format of that. That's so cool. But I started it originally as an audiobook, and the audiobook is also really good. So I want to read and listen at the same time, and that's like a combined format that I've never done. So this is going to be my answer for reading a book in a format that you don't normally read. I'm going to read and listen. So that counts well enough for me. I hope that's not cheating. The last real challenge, besides the bonus challenge that I'm not going to do, but I'll tell you what it is anyway, is, like I said earlier, read one of the host's favorite fantasies. Julie from Pages and Pens said that Dead Witch Walking is one of her favorite fantasies, so it's fate. Like, all of these books except for one were already on my TBR. I was able to make this Fantasy-A-Thon TBR basically only using books from my actual December TBR, save the 5th season, which I want to read anyway. So see how that worked out? It was just so perfect. I couldn't turn it down, obviously. And then there is a bonus challenge that I'm not going to do because I don't really have any interest in the book, but it's a group read of Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw, and like I said, I'm just not interested in it, so. And I think this is enough. I think this is enough for me to try to read in 2 weeks. I'm never going to get them all done, but I'm going to give it a shot. This readathon, I believe they said, runs from December 13th to December 22nd. So if you're really into fantasy, I think you should participate with me. This is my Fantasy-A-Thon TBR, and I hope you will do this readathon with me, with us, because I'm really excited about it. It's my favorite thing. So yeah, that's it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.